Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting of the Finance and Government Operations Committee on Thursday, October 16th, 2025. My name is Betty Young, and I'm your chairperson for this committee. I'm going to turn to our clerk to see if we're ready for roll call.
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg.
I'm here.
And Chairperson Young.
I am here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Wonderful. Before going into our agenda, I would like to make a brief opening statement and then would like to invite my colleague, Vice Chair Ellenberg, to share a couple words before we move into the agenda. To say we are in unprecedented times or uncharted territory doesn't begin to describe where we find ourselves today. On July 4th, 2025, 249 years after the United States exercised its right to self-governance by declaring the colonies to be free and independent states, the head of our government signed into law a series of actions that, when taken collectively, will result in more than $1 billion in ongoing annual cuts to our county's budget once fully in effect. There quite simply is no way to absorb a $1 billion reduction in funding without having some kind of impact on our residents. As the layer of government with responsibility for providing the safety net to the most vulnerable in our community, we have a responsibility to do what we can to redress these horrendous impacts. We can only do this if we have a clear understanding of where our operations are being hit, how hard they are being hit, and finally, what our options may be for mitigating those hits to the extent feasible. Perhaps by identifying replacement resources, creating new partnerships, and/or by identifying creative new approaches, we might be able to offset some of the most dire repercussions of these reckless federal actions. I'm not naive enough to think we can right every wrong that H.R. 1 and subsequent actions related to the fiscal year 2026 budget will impose on our community. But we must address what we can control, and that is the purpose of today's meeting: to begin to lay out in a specific and actionable way the negative impacts so we can go a level deeper into identifying possible solutions and opportunities to mitigate the worst of the harms. Sadly, as we begin to wrap our heads around the impacts of H.R. 1, it quickly becomes evident that it is simply the start of the conversation. Now facing a government shutdown with uncertain FY26 funding, things are even more complex. We'll start today's conversations with state and federal experts updating us on the latest with respect to the federal budget negotiations for fiscal year 2026, including potential state impacts that may roll down to the county. Then we'll focus on impacts to the County of Santa Clara health and hospital system, including public health, behavioral health, and emergency services, because when taken together, they are the single biggest component of our budget. Next, we'll turn to safety net programs administered by our social services agency with a deeper dive on local food system impacts, because more people will go hungry in the future if we don't make a concerted effort to address the funding and service gaps resulting from reduced federal support. We know inadequate nutrition leads to worse health outcomes, and because tragically many of those who are hungry will be children, we can anticipate that unaddressed, these cuts could in turn lead to negative educational health outcomes in our youth. You simply cannot learn and grow if you are hungry. That outcome is not something I'm willing to simply accept, nor I believe is this board willing to accept. Today's agenda is ambitious, and I'll just point out that we aren't even covering data privacy and security concerns, ensuring ongoing integrity of our elections, our ability to achieve climate goals, or a myriad of other potential topics. So I'll ask that folks be crisp in their presentations and concise in their responses. With that, I open the floor to my colleague, Vice Chair Ellenberg, to make a brief opening statement.
Thank you very much, Chair Young, and thank you for scheduling this special meeting so that we do have an opportunity to hear directly from many of our departments. In difficult budget times, we may be compelled to sacrifice our aspirations, but we don't sacrifice our values. We focus on what works best. We invest in people, in prevention, and in solutions that will make our community stronger, safer, healthier, and more stable over time. Through many iterations of this Board of Supervisors, healthcare has been a clear priority expressed in both policy and funding decisions. We have taken, frankly, heroic measures to preserve access to primary, urgent, and emergency care for our community when the private sector has failed our residents. But healthcare doesn't begin in a hospital. Healthcare begins with stable housing, mental health support, good nutrition, and access to opportunity. When families have these essentials, they stay healthier and rely less on emergency services. Communities are safer and depend less on law enforcement. Prevention always costs less than crisis care and protects more lives to boot. It is so hard to pull back on aspirations. It's poor long-term planning not to invest in the things we know improve people's lives. And yet the degree of this crisis means we will likely do less of what works. It means we will have to pare back some programs and services to what is mandated, which is often a very low bar. And when I think about paring back, I think about both the people who receive and benefit from those services and about the valued community employees who provide them. When we make cuts to balance our budget, this means we are impacting multiple lives. How will individual residents fare when they receive fewer health care services, less food assistance, and less housing support? How will our community fare when public health funding no longer covers tracing and containing infectious diseases, when even more people are pushed into homelessness, and when less support is provided to individuals returning to our community following incarceration? How will our county employees fare if they have to move to a less desirable position in the county, or worse, lose any position? They too have families, rent or mortgages, and are also our residents. My values reflect my priorities. I want all our residents to be safe, stably housed, healthy, and engaged. I will look for ways to preserve our healthcare system to the maximum extent feasible. I will look to preserve and continue the tremendous work we have done expanding our mental health services and programs. I will fight to continue investing in homelessness prevention and in GI programs. And I will center children, as I have done for 7 years. We simply cannot balance this budget on their tiny backs.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I am going to move item 3, which is public comment reserve for any persons wanting to make a comment on item not on this agenda to be heard after item 5 before item 6. So now we'll be at item 4 to approve the agenda as is.
Move approval.
Second?
Vice Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes.
And Chairperson Young.
Yes. And
Motion
now we're at
carries.
item, thank you, Colin. Any public comment on item 4?
There are no requests to speak on item 4. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 5 of our special agenda, and that is to receive reports relating to fiscal and operational impacts of H.R. 1 and related federal and state actions. Up first is an overview from our County Executive, James Williams.
Thank you, members of the committee. You're going to hear this afternoon from a variety of county staff about just some of the critical facets of impacts associated with H.R. 1. H.R. 1 and related federal and state changes and actions, the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act, was signed into law by President Trump on July 4th of this year. That law, which took immediate effect, imposes unprecedented cuts in 2 critical areas of federal support. The largest and most significant is a nearly $1 trillion cut to the federal Medicaid program. Medicaid is the joint federal-state program that provides access to health care for nearly 1 in 5 Americans and 1 in 2 children in the United States. Here in Santa Clara County, the California implementation of Medicaid, known as Medi-Cal, provides access to health care for 1 out of every 4 Santa Clara County residents. This national nearly $1 trillion cut to Medicaid will impose severe and serious harms, first to the thousands, indeed millions, of Americans who will lose coverage directly and their families, but also to the entire healthcare delivery system, much of which depends considerably upon Medicaid revenues for its basic operations. You're going to hear more this afternoon about the implications of that on our county's own public healthcare delivery system, which is the backbone for healthcare in the entire South Bay. The second area of significant cut from H.R. 1 is to the federal SNAP program, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, known in California as CalFresh. This program provides literally access to food for millions of vulnerable families across the United States and over 130,000 here in Santa Clara County. You're going to hear this afternoon from county staff about some of those impacts and the serious implications that that has. It doesn't get more essential than food and health care. These are literally life-saving, life-essential services. And of course, this strikes right at the heart of our role and our responsibility as a county organization in the delivery of essential safety net services to those families in our community who are most in need. We will do everything that we can to continue our mission to be there when we are needed by each and every family in our community. But make no mistake, the magnitude of what we are facing will have serious and significant impacts on these most vulnerable families in our community, but also on every family in our community. Because of the magnitude and nature of the impacts on our county organization, they threaten the very core of our ability to offer certain vital services. Now, we are not taking this lying down. Through the leadership of the board and with the dedication of thousands of committed county employees, dedicated public servants, tremendous support from across the community and across our county partners, including the many agencies that help us deliver services to our community, we are pushing every button and pulling every lever to ensure that we can do everything possible to mitigate these impacts. We have put forward a three-pronged approach to these mitigation efforts. One element is to call upon a partnership with the state. Both CalFresh and Medi-Cal are joint federal-state programs. And while we fully recognize that the state is not in a position to fully offset or mitigate the magnitude of federal funding reductions or to undo some of the extraordinarily harmful policy changes that are included in H.R. 1 and related federal administrative actions, there is an important role for the state that can help soften those edges. And we are working very thoughtfully, and you'll hear a little more about some of those efforts, in partnership, for example, with other public hospital systems, with our own legislative delegation, direct engagement with state agencies, to pursue each of those avenues. Public hospitals in California represent only 6% of the hospitals in the state, but deliver and operate more than 50% of the trauma and burn centers in California and train more than 50% of the doctors in this state. The public hospital systems are literally the backbone for healthcare for all Californians. And it is incumbent on the state to step forward to help soften those edges to ensure that those 6% of hospitals continue to function. But that will not fill the full magnitude. Our second and largest set of strategies includes very difficult decisions and actions we have to take internally as a county organization that call upon sacrifice from our own county staff and that require us to simultaneously move forward a whole range of initiatives related to service lines, related to efficiencies, related to identifying where we have to make cuts, but in ways that, as much as possible, minimize impacts on those most in need. And it will be a wide range of actions. The board will be hearing on Tuesday some of the broader framework of that approach, including the fact that our own health system has been directed to bring forward an initial $200 million of ongoing budget solutions mid-year this year, because as you'll see in a moment, we have fiscal impacts from H.R. 1 this current fiscal year. The third piece of our approach was the board's unanimous placement of Measure A on this special election agenda. This 5-year, 5/8 of a cent sales tax provides us with some breathing room, and while not filling even half of the gap, makes a significant and extraordinary difference in what we're facing. So what are we facing? I'm going to share one slide. The cuts and impacts from H.R. 1 hit us immediately this current fiscal year. So if you look on the left, you see that we are facing over a $200 million impact in this current fiscal year. That amount grows to over $500 million, over $500 million in this upcoming fiscal year, and over $1 billion the year after. With Measure A, we would receive about $330 million in revenue. And as you can see, that would significantly offset, especially in the initial years, the magnitude of cuts we're facing. You'll also see, of course, that very quickly there's much more of a hole to fill. What Measure A would bring is vital flexibility in filling gaps and giving our organization a little time to continue to push all of those buttons and pull all of those other levers, some of which cannot come to fruition immediately, and thereby put us in a position to, as much as possible, preserve the most critical services. But also make no mistake that the magnitude of what we're facing, the math is actually pretty straightforward. It's literally addition and subtraction. You don't even need your multiplication and division. And the addition and subtraction here is stark. It is large. And to put it in perspective, it is the largest revenue impact to this county organization since the early 1980s, when we faced significant revenue loss in the wake of Proposition 13. So we will need to reorganize and restructure. We will need to call upon an extraordinary amount of shared sacrifice. But I think you put it well, Supervisor Ellenberg, when you said we have to remain tethered to our values as an organization. And this community has invested in an incredible public healthcare delivery system for generations. And we cannot let this federal administration undo or squander that multi-generational investment at the direct harm of the most vulnerable families in our community and at the direct harm of any family in our community that needs our services at a moment's notice. So you're going to hear this afternoon more specifics about these impacts, about the magnitude of what we're facing, about our efforts to push back, But it is absolutely essential that every resident in our county recognize and understand what is happening, understand and recognize the scope and scale of these federally imposed and extraordinarily draconian cuts, and understand and recognize that we must come together as a community to do everything that we can to fight back. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you for getting right to the heart of the matter. And you've certainly given us a lot to think about as we move through our panels this afternoon. Today's first panel will take a big picture look at the federal and state actions impacting the County of Santa Clara, and we'll explore not just the direct impacts in Washington, but also how the impacts to the state are then rolling down to local governments like our county. I would like to thank David Campos from our Office of Intergovernmental Relations for being here. David is the Deputy County Executive with the responsibility for coordinating advocacy efforts on federal, state, and regional issues, initiating legislation, and monitoring state and federal legislation that affects our county. David, I understand you'll be introducing your fellow panelists. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Young, Vice Chair Ellenberg, David Campos, Deputy County Executive, and I will be introducing our two distinguished panelists. And let me begin, before I do that, by simply noting that, as the County Executive indicated, a big part of this strategy is making sure that we influence what happens in Sacramento in response to the actions of the federal government. And I think the way that the county executive has described it is, a third of the strategy depends on what happens in Sacramento. The reality is that what Sacramento does or doesn't do can make things neutral, worse, or better. And in thinking about that strategy, we have really tried to put together the best team possible to represent the interests of this county. And two key and important players of that team are the individuals that I'm about to introduce. And as you know, based on our interaction with them, these are individuals who, more than just about anyone in the state, understand how healthcare funding works at the federal level, who have deep relationships across the board in DC and in Sacramento, and who will make sure that the interests of the county are front and center in anything that happens. So let me begin by introducing someone who's here, and that's Bert Margolin from the Margolin Group, who will talk about the federal landscape. To the extent that we in California can understand what's happening in DC, no one has a better grasp than Bert. And then online is Kelly Brooks-Lindsay from the Hearst Brooks Espinosa firm, who will share her thoughts about what's happening at the state level. And Kelly comes from a group of folks who have been representing the interests of counties for many years and have long standing relationships. So you will hear from each of them, and then at the end of their presentations, the three of us are happy to take questions. And again, really thank the committee, the chair and the vice chair for your leadership in making sure that people are aware of everything that's happening. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bert and Kelly.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon. Mr. Williams has already outlined in broad strokes the grim federal environment that we're contending with, and what I'll attempt to do in the next few minutes is give you some additional detail about H.R. 1 and what it's doing to healthcare services in California, in particular Santa Clara County, and then give you an update on the budget battle in Washington, which has direct implications for how these healthcare cuts are going to be addressed. So, to start with, just to emphasize the point, H.R. 1 is the largest cut to Medicaid in the history of the program, unquestionably. It's not only the $1 trillion that you heard referenced, but as many as 16 million people will lose health coverage, 12 million in Medicaid and 4 million in the Affordable Care Act exchange system. We've had decades of incremental progress. It's been a struggle, it's been a battle to expand access to quality health care. Santa Clara County's been the tip of the spear in many of those efforts, but this one bill creates a dramatic downward slide. And as Mr. Williams indicated, the massive impacts are being felt now in the current year, and they will grow and grow substantially in the years to come, become much worse. Are we changing mics to see if we have better quality mic? Turn that one off. Okay, fine. Thank you. So let me just move these mics around. So the simplest way to describe what it does to hospitals, HR 1, is to understand that Medicaid financing is complex. It's a state and federal partnership, as you know, different in each of the 50 states. The key problem has always been that base Medicaid rates, the base amount that hospital systems and providers get, are below the cost of providing care. There's a deficit. So what the state of California and the federal government has done over many, many years is worked out these special financing arrangements that would allow dollars to flow to Santa Clara County's health system and other public hospital systems to keep doors open and to improve quality of care and access to care. You've heard terms, and you will hear more today, about directed payments and provider fees. Those are the technical terms, but it really comes down to special payments designed to make up the difference between what it costs and what base Medicaid pays. HR 1 aggressively slashes away at these special financing programs. It creates new caps and actually forces a phase down in these special financing programs over time. HR 1 was advertised as dealing with waste and abuse, when in fact it has really nothing much to do with any of that. The goal of the bill was simply to shrink the size of federal support for the Medicaid program, and it tackled this mission with indifference to the impact it will have on the millions of people who will lose coverage. It sweeps away funding for hospitals that care for the Medicaid population with only token efforts to offset the damage. So at the same time we have our financing being decimated by HR 1, we also have another area of assault, and that involves efforts in HR 1 to make it more difficult for people to enroll in Medicaid and to actually receive the benefits. Work requirements are the most publicized restriction. It applies to Medicaid and SNAP as well, but there are many other restrictions in the bill. And what this does essentially, what the sponsors of HR 1 argued falsely, is that these work requirements would incentivize work, when in fact every state that has experimented with work requirements has found that it simply kicks people off the rolls. Most people in these programs have jobs if they're capable of working, and they have jobs and they need care, and they fall off the rolls because they're not able to navigate through the paperwork, the red tape that bills like HR 1 will create. So this is a catastrophe. It's going to create catastrophic damage, and that's why, jumping now to the budget fight in Washington, that Democrats in Washington have chosen cuts to health care as the central issue to stand their ground on in the federal budget battle. And there are two main Democratic asks. One, they want these draconian Medicaid cuts to be reversed. And two, they want the Affordable Care Act's enhanced premium tax credits, which expire at the end of the year under current law, to be extended. Almost everyone in D.C. understands that the Medicaid cut reversal is not realistic in this budget bill. But the reason why it's so important for Democrats to raise this is this fight has to be undertaken, and it will be an extended fight. There's a lot of education to be done about how challenging and disastrous and difficult HR 1 is, and this is an opening round in what will be a long-term effort to mitigate and, where possible, reverse these damaging Medicaid cuts. The second big ask, the enhanced premium tax credits, is in a different category entirely. It is actually a realistic ask. Many Republicans support this. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has famously come out recently in support of these enhanced premium tax credits being extended, which is a puzzling development until you understand why, and I'll come to that in a moment. Brief history involving the ACA tax credits. They were part of the original law passed in 2010. They didn't work especially well for the first decade or so they were in place. They weren't generous enough. They were too hard to access for various reasons. And when COVID came along in 2021, the Congress and the President signed the American Rescue Plan, which reformed these premium tax credits, enhanced them, and made them easier to access. As a result of that, in just 4 years, the number of people who get coverage through the Affordable Care Act, through these exchanges, has doubled to nearly 24 million. If the tax credits are allowed to expire at the end of the year, every analyst has said the premium increase for people who get this exchange coverage will on average double. It will be an on average doubling. It will involve thousands of dollars in overnight new costs for individuals and families who are relying upon exchange coverage. So Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans who've traditionally opposed the ACA now say that these credits cannot be allowed to expire. It isn't just the doubling of the cost, which is a shocking number and is producing a constituent reaction, but the Republicans in general are interested in this because the expansion in the exchange coverage over the last decade has occurred primarily or heavily in red states. Texas increased its exchange population by 255%, Florida by 147%. And why is that the case? Because there are states that have not expanded the Medicaid program, which they have the option of doing. And they also, again, these exchange policies typically benefit small employers and their employees, and again, that's a constituency that most Republican lawmakers are very sensitive to. So even though Republicans disparage the Affordable Care Act on ideological grounds, they are reluctant to take away the benefits it provides when they're at risk, especially in heavily red communities. So the issues out there, Democrats have drawn a line in the sand. So you may ask why, if Republicans have an interest in this, at least some Republicans, significant number, not all, why is there a shutdown? Why are we in an impasse? Well, here are the dynamics here. The Republicans are saying that they will only negotiate on the tax credits if the government is reopened. Democrats respond by saying, we've asked you to address this issue for many, many months now. This is not a surprise issue, and you've ignored it. And we have no confidence that you will engage in a good faith negotiation at some later point. If you're willing to do it now. And that's the Republican and Democratic perspective on that. Both sides have dug in. Republicans generally think that they can pressure Democrats into capitulating. They're canceling infrastructure projects in blue states. They've recently done major firings through reduction in force orders. And they also believe that beyond those pressures, that because they in the past have initiated government shutdowns, and in the past they've always been blamed for the shutdown, their memory of this issue is, well, since the Democrats are quote unquote causing this in their mind, they'll be blamed. So they want to hang in there and not capitulate, not negotiate. Democrats are dug in because they have reached their limit in watching President Trump ignore Congress's constitutional role in making spending decisions. The fact that Republicans and the president will not negotiate over the CR and are saying take it or leave it has generated unbelievable outrage. It's the first time in the history of the Congress, certainly the modern history of the Congress, and I would argue probably the entire history of the Congress, that this has ever happened, where you wouldn't have a negotiation. They're also dug in because they believe that 20 million Americans having their insurance premiums double overnight is a fight worth having, and a fight that needs to be fought and that it can be won. It's a very bad situation. I'll end with a quick reference to the last 12 hours and what's been happening over the last day. There is a small group of bipartisan senators who've attempted to work out a solution. They have put forward, this very small group, the idea of a one-year extension of the tax credits. At the same time, we reopen the government. So you have two bills on the floor, one to extend for 1 year, the other to reopen the government. Democratic leadership have rejected that because a one-year extension is not going to fully deal with the price increase, because the insurance carriers are not going to say, oh, 12 months, that's good enough for us to not pass along a substantial increase. It wouldn't be as large, but it doesn't solve the problem. And also, what's the logic behind 1 year? If you believe in premium tax credits and saving this population from these increases, you would do more than that. So it's been rejected. And then the other dynamic here, of course, is the House of Representatives has to agree to this. And Speaker Johnson's strategy has been to not have them in session. They've been away, and they're not part of these discussions. His fear is that if they were in town, they would have their own small group of House Republicans meeting and talking as the Senate is doing. So we still have the White House not engaged in negotiations, this dysfunction continuing. The longest shutdown in history ended in 2019 at 34 days. This clearly has the potential to break that record. And I'll end there.
Thank you very much, Bert. And now we're going to turn it to, I don't know if you want to take questions of the federal first and then go to the state.
We'll hear the whole presentation
Okay,
before turning to
wonderful.
discussion.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bert. And we'll now turn it to Kelly. Thank you, Kelly.
Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Brooks Lindsay. It's an honor to represent the County of Santa Clara before the state legislature. In my comments today, I plan to first outline for you how the state is estimating the direct impacts from HR 1, talk about what the legislature has done to date, and then forecast a little bit for you around what may or may not happen in 2026. The Newsom administration was very proactive, and within weeks of the passage of HR 1, released a fairly detailed document around the impacts to the state. So first, in the Medi-Cal space, the Department of Health Care Services, which is the state department that operates the Medi-Cal program, is estimating that up to 3 million Medi-Cal members may lose coverage due to just the work requirements. Additionally, they are estimating another 400,000 Medi-Cal members may lose coverage due to the requirements to redetermine Medi-Cal eligibility every 6 months instead of every 12 months. The department is also estimating that over $30 billion in federal funding is at risk annually, and that there will be major disruptions to the Medi-Cal financing structure for the safety net. More uninsured Californians will raise costs for hospitals and clinics that treat uninsured patients. Additionally, another 200,000 immigrant Medi-Cal members will shift from satisfactory immigration status, which the federal government currently covers, to unsatisfactory immigration status, which means that federal match will no longer be available, and they will not be eligible for the existing Medi-Cal program. In Covered California, which is California's version of the federal exchange, so the issues that Mr. Margolin was just talking about around the enhanced premium tax credits, the state entity that's impacted is called Covered California. They're estimating as many as 660,000 covered enrollees could go uninsured. Some immigrant groups, including DACA recipients, have already lost coverage due to new federal rules, and they were disenrolled from Covered California in August. Additionally, all Covered California enrollees will see significantly higher costs. The state is estimating that the rates, premium changes that are being sent out to enrollees right now will generally double starting in January. On the CalFresh side, up to 395,000 people could lose benefits under, in California, our Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is called CalFresh. Additionally, approximately 300,000 Californians are anticipated to lose benefits this year due to new work requirements that went into effect July 4th. And in addition to the benefit losses, and new limits on non-citizen eligibility, HR 1 will shift up to $2.7 billion of cost to the state and counties for a benefit and administrative costs. The projected loss of tens of billions of dollars in federal funds is in addition to a projected structural state budget deficit of anywhere between $10 to $30 billion over the next several years. The state budget is impacted in the current year by HR 1 and has a cascading impact over multiple fiscal years. So the legislature was on recess in July when all of this sort of HR 1 action culminated. When they returned in August, they began having informational hearings to try to get their arms around the impacts. And they started having hearings both in the policy space as well as in the budget space, because I think they recognize that the impacts are so large that they probably are gonna have to have conversations about how to change some of the sort of policies and procedures around both Medi-Cal and CalFresh, and also are gonna have to address deficits in the state budget. I anticipate that their discussions are going to resume in January when they return. They are currently on recess until January 5th. One of the issues that they sort of dug into was around the managed care organization tax. So this is an issue where we still don't yet know whether the Trump administration is going to allow California's existing managed care organization tax to continue. The current year budget includes $7 billion in funding from the managed care organization tax. So there is a possibility that the Trump administration comes to California and says, we're gonna disallow your tax, and it's gonna be retroactive to July 4th, which would create considerable budget problems for the state. So that was not addressed before the legislature left town because it's an existing sort of question mark, and the federal government has not told the state the outcome of how they're viewing our tax. Additionally, before the legislature adjourned for their fall recess, they sent the governor a budget package that included approximately $250 million for costs associated with responding to HR 1 and other federal policy changes. So they included some funding to address some activities associated with the CalFresh program. I think they're thinking about how to mitigate the error rate. They provided more funding for food banks in anticipation that people would lose CalFresh coverage and need access to food. They also provided a small amount of funding so that the state could apply for the one bucket of funding that's available, which is the Rural Health Transformation Program. They included funding for gender affirming care because federal rules have eliminated gender affirming care as an essential health benefit, but it would still allow people who are purchasing coverage through Covered California to access those services. And then they also included funding for reproductive health care because the federal bill essentially eliminates funding for Planned Parenthood. There are many state level decisions that have yet to be made around issues like automation and staffing, but the state is waiting for federal guidance around work requirements. The details that come from the federal government will be impactful to state budgeting decisions. I know my colleague talked a little bit about the federal shutdown. Whatever work was happening prior to the shutdown is on pause, and so I think if we're probably going to see some delays in guidance from the federal administration because of the current work stoppage. And then thinking a little bit ahead to 2026, as I mentioned, the legislature returns in January. The governor must release his budget proposal by January 10th per the state constitution. I'm just going to underscore again that the Legislative Analyst's Office has been warning the legislature that the state is facing a structural deficit and that they should anticipate budget deficits over the next several years. This was before HR 1 passed. And I would just remind you, I said earlier in the presentation, the state's anticipating over $30 billion in costs or lost revenue associated with HR 1. I anticipate the Newsom administration will be cautious about the state budget outlook. And I would remind you that in the current budget year that we're in, the state had to make cuts in the Medicaid space to balance the budget. So they did things like impose premiums on individuals with unsatisfactory immigration status who are eligible for Medi-Cal. They froze enrollment in Medi-Cal for that population, and they eliminated adult dental. We may see the administration come back and want to make additional cuts in the Medi-Cal space. I think that would not be surprising given the tremendous growth in state expenditures in that area. I would say generally I'm pessimistic about the state budget outlook over the next 3 to 5 years. I think in thinking about HR 1 like right now, in the short term and in the longer term, we will see real and immediate impacts to individuals and families and seniors and to the state budget. I anticipate that the state's structural budget deficit will grow. I think in the shorter term, folks should anticipate the state starting to have discussions about further state budget reductions and continued growth in the structural deficit in the state budget. And then in the longer term, I think the state is going to potentially need to have conversations about how they deliver services and how they finance parts of state government, including Medicaid.
Thank you very much. I think that concludes our presentation, and happy to take questions.
Thank you to our presenters today. Thank you for making your way out here to have this discussion with us, and you've given us certainly a lot to think about. Vice Chair Ellenberg, I turn to you first for any questions or comments or discussions today.
Thank you all for the presentations. Kelly, can I ask you, I need a little bit more understanding about the grounds on which the MCO tax may be disallowed in connection with HR 1. I know we were successful with passing Prop 35 to ensure that those funds do come back to Medicaid providers. And can you help me understand why those are under threat?
So their HR 1 says that a tax has to be levied the same way across entities and at the same rate. The way California has structured the tax, the rate is different depending on the population of people. So like it's a different rate if you are serving Medi-Cal patients than for a commercial patient. And they're saying it has to be applied equally. So potentially California would need to restructure its tax to conform to the federal rules. I'm sorry, that was a rule change. In HR 1, it gave the federal government the flexibility to let states apply for waivers to ask for more time or to reconfigure their taxes. It's unclear what that process is going to be. That's why California is very interested in figuring out how to apply to at least extend the tax, as long as for as many quarters as possible. It's unclear, and it sounds like there hasn't been sufficient federal guidance, so the state hasn't been able to apply. There are probably other states in a similar position to California that are going to have to look at their taxes and figure out how to conform with the federal rules.
Is this just about the MCO tax, or is this about other taxes as well?
They will also have to look at potentially at the quality assurance fee, which is applied to private hospitals and has been used to generate revenue. There are better and more options for restructuring the quality assurance fee than there are for the MCO tax, but that is potentially a conversation that will have to occur as well. It sounds like we have other taxes that are outside of the rule that will not have to be restructured per the new federal guidance.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bert, I just want to ask, at some point with the federal government shutdown, is there a potential cash flow issue that the county faces due to the way in which funds flow to us? And what would that time frame look like before we should start getting really worried?
So that's an excellent question, and one that I would actually defer to Mr. Williams on when it comes to cash flow into the county. I know the programs, but Mr. Williams knows how they reach the county financially.
Yes, we are monitoring. I think the first place where we may see higher magnitude impacts is actually with some of the social services programs that may have funding-related challenges starting in November. So if the shutdown continues into November, we are seeing some more modest impacts. For example, we can't claim on federal grants because those portals are down and the staff are furloughed. But those magnitude of impacts aren't going to cause us severe cash flow issues, especially because we had the foresight with the budget the board adopted this year to actually pull a lot of the federal grant revenue out of our base budget. So we're pretty well situated to weather those particular impacts. But on the social services front, we would have concerns and it would be statewide, it's not unique to Santa Clara County, but statewide concerns that would begin trickling and hitting in November. And I forget the exact date. We probably could get that when we get to that part of the presentation. I think it's early November.
Thank you, James. For both of our panelists, so much of the focus is on Medicaid and supplemental nutrition. What else should we be thinking about, in your opinion?
You mentioned supplemental nutrition. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of the
Yeah,
question.
a lot of the focus we have is on Medicaid and supplemental
Yes.
nutrition. Is there anything else we should also be considering or getting ready for that's on the horizon?
Mr. Williams, again, my focus has been healthcare. I defer to Mr. Williams.
There are a number of other policy changes happening at the federal level that have impacts in our community. One big area of broader impact involves environmental regulations as well as the tax-related provisions behind a lot of environmental policy. So, for example, H.R. 1 reversed the progress that was made under the Biden administration to support renewable energy. Those have serious community impacts. They don't have fiscal impact on the county organization, but they obviously have broader community impacts to residents in our county. In addition, I would just say that there's a broader set of macroeconomic shifts that I think should concern everyone. Ironically, notwithstanding these unprecedented federal cuts, H.R. 1 massively adds to the federal debt because the tax cuts that were included in H.R. 1 far exceeded the spending cuts to offset those tax cuts in the form of the Medicaid and SNAP and other related reductions. The problem with that is threefold. One is the federal government's budget is getting increasingly consumed by debt service. Second, that puts pressure on interest rates. But third, that has implications for credit. And as a subdivision of the state, which is, of course, a component of the United States, there are some broader intergovernmental fiscal implications from that type of fiscal policy that may not show up immediately, but stem directly from H.R. 1 as well. And that, that affects all governmental entities across the country, but is very costly, and it's a cost to Americans writ large that will be heavily paid for over time.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. James, you didn't mention public health, and I would think that that's one of the big areas that's also being impacted by federal government changes and that we have already experienced cuts and
It
reductions.
is, not so much H.R. 1. So we were focused, I think, a little on H.R. 1 specifically. We have already experienced and continue to experience really significant public health impacts. We have been proactive, and so our county organization, with the budget that the board adopted for this year, took some very difficult steps to pull out a lot of the federal grant funding from our public health department budget, and did have some significant impacts in public health, but ones that now position us to better weather, from a fiscal standpoint, federal impacts on public health funding on a go-forward basis. That being said, we continue to see really troubling impacts at CDC and elsewhere in the federal government on public health care programs, and public health is not an island. So the reality is when you have indiscriminate layoffs, for example, happening at the CDC that affect the nation's experts on certain communicable diseases or other public health crises, or that impact the federal government's collection and dissemination of data or surveillance, that has major implications for us, even if we have preserved our own capacity to do analysis and surveillance locally, because we're not an island. So those are real, and it's not, there's no real mechanism, sadly, for us to offset those impacts beyond maintaining our own local infrastructure. And we have moved to general fund really important surveillance and response and analytical infrastructure so that at least locally we can continue to see what's happening. But, you know, as we know well from the pandemic, it's not like diseases, viruses, or other issues are going to stop at the Santa Clara County border because they see the little green sign on the freeway. So,
If only. Thank you, James. For Bert and Kelly, and also for James as well, I think, you know, we're not the only county government coping with budget shocks. And I know you have many clients and move in different circles. James, you interact and engage regularly with other counties. I'm wondering if you're hearing any really great examples of ways other local governments have responded to some of these hits, and anything that you think we may want to consider for ourselves here?
I think Santa Clara County is actually on the leading edge with your ballot measure. And I would defer once again to Mr. Williams to talk further about it. But you're ahead of the curve in terms of county. Most counties are still in the process of debating and strategizing. And Santa Clara County was first out of the box with a significant measure.
Thank you. Kelly, is Kelly still with us? If there's
I
any.
am still here. I think the other thing I would mention is I know San Diego brought to their board, I believe, either late September or earlier this month. They're starting to have conversations about ideas around mitigation, and I think they're just the beginning of those conversations, but they have a fairly lengthy public memo about different approaches, and I think they're probably looking at things similar to you all. I think potentially including revenue. So I think they're the one that I think is as similarly proactive to you all. Most of what I have seen from other counties has been more focused on the impact side, and I think folks are just starting to work on the thinking about the mitigations.
If I can add that one thing that we are doing is that we are working closely with other counties through the urban counties, through CSAC, and thinking of ways in which we can put forward proposals that focus not just on Santa Clara, but on the collective interests of these counties, and especially the public hospital system. And part of the challenge that we have is educating folks in Sacramento about the importance and the significance of the public hospital system, and the fact that even a county like Santa Clara that is seen as a wealthy county can have the challenges we're facing in light of HR 1. And so there's a lot of education, but there's a lot of coordination with other counties, other associations, because we know it's going to take that coalition to be successful.
Thank you. James?
yeah, I would just add, we are doing a lot of work with the other public hospital systems, especially on changes that impact Medi-Cal. And we've been very proactive in those conversations. I do agree. I think counties across the state are still coming to terms with what is headed our way and what that means, just as the state is. I mean, we heard that the state has basically punted on really digging deep and taking action into, next year, when initially we heard that there might be a special session to try to tackle some of this. We recognize, though, here that delay means harm, very real harm, because the reality is, unlike the federal government, we must balance our budget every year. We don't get to print money. And so when there's delay in taking proactive steps to mitigate, you're left with very few tools at the end of the day to balance. And those tools are ugly ones and they're harmful ones. And so we're trying to get ahead of that. Now, we did have something unique, which is, yes, now there's Prop 50, there was a special election across California, but that was called by the legislature after the Elections Code deadline to put something on the ballot. And so the reality is, we happened to already have a special election in November. And so, you know, that was a fact that just isn't true elsewhere. And so when people have asked, well, what's happening in some other counties on the ballot, the answer is actually quite straightforward. For the other counties in California, they didn't know by the time of the ballot deadline under the elections code that there would be any election in that county in November. We were in a different situation because of the assessor's race that happened in June. So that's a very important just timeline fact. And I do think we will see a number of things in 26, but we're trying to get ahead of the curve and actually get in front of some of these really serious impacts.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Bert. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, David. I'm always happy and proud that Santa Clara County is often at the head of the pack. I think this is the one time I was hoping someone else was ahead of us. But thank you for the presentation. Okay. We're going to move on. There's just clearly a lot more to say on these topics, but I want to make sure we move on to our next panel to keep our time schedule. Up next is our health systems panel. We'll be taking a deeper dive look at the specific impacts to our county health system, including the network of hospitals and clinics we operate, public health, behavioral health, and emergency medical services. Joining us today, we have Mr. Paul Lorenz, our esteemed CEO of Santa Clara Valley Healthcare. He'll be joined on the panel by Chief Quality Officer Dr. Brian Macbeth, the Director of our Emergency Medical Services Agency, Mr. Nick Clay, as well as Dr. Monica Roy, the Acting Deputy Public Health Officer, and Megan Willihan, the Deputy Director of our Behavioral Health Services Department. And I know that we just spent the morning celebrating the return of labor and delivery services back at Regional Medical Center, and I hope that we get to talk about how we keep it. Thank you. Please begin.
Great. Thank you, Chair Jung and Supervisor Ellenberg. Obviously, I have a lot to say. I will try to stay on point and be sure to move our presentation along. So first of all, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about and sharing with this board and this committee the importance of our healthcare system, our county-operated healthcare system, and why it is so essential and critical for our community. First and foremost, Santa Clara Valley Healthcare operates 4 hospitals, 15 major health centers, and a variety of other critical services in our county, which serve as the backbone of our local healthcare safety net system for all residents. What is probably less known is that Santa Clara Valley Healthcare is also the largest provider of many, many critical healthcare services, as I mentioned, to all residents. We provide care for nearly 1 in 4 Santa Clara County residents, and that number continues to grow with the recent acquisition of Regional Medical Center. We operate 2 of the 3 trauma centers in Santa Clara County, a level 1 trauma center for adults, a level 2 trauma center for children at Valley Medical Center, and a level 2 at Regional Medical Center. Half of all 911 transports are taken to county hospitals. In fact, every 11 minutes, a 911 call in Santa Clara County results, as mentioned before, in a patient being transported to a county hospital. That's every 11 minutes. We are now the largest provider of Medicare for acute care hospital services in the county of Santa Clara. And I will touch on that a little bit further and be sure to elaborate on why that is so important to understand. We have a top-ranked rehabilitation center for spinal cord injury, brain injury, and stroke. It is ranked number 1 on the entire West Coast and number 7 in the nation. We operate the only burn center in Santa Clara County, and it is one of only 3 regional burn trauma centers between Los Angeles and the Oregon border. Next slide, please. As a public healthcare safety net system, the board made some critically important decisions to ensure that essential services remained available for our community. And that was, in fact, the As you well know, the purchase of O'Connor Hospital and Regional Medical Center in 2019, and more recently, the acquisition, O'Connor Hospital and St. Louis Regional Hospital, and Regional Medical Center just recently. Today, not only is each of our hospitals full, but are providing essential and critical services to all residents. Over 4,200 babies are delivered by your health system, and delivering 80% of the births of those families that are on Medi-Cal. The 4 hospitals represent the highest number of acute inpatient census of any health system in the county, with over 306,000 inpatient days annually. The next closest hospital is Stanford, which reported 260,000 inpatient days in 2024. Next slide. We operate a comprehensive system of care beyond the acute hospital services, and as mentioned, trauma, burn, and rehab. But we also provide over 1 million outpatient visits in primary care, urgent care, dental services, and we operate a robust specialty care network ranging from life-saving oncology care to cardiac care to behavioral services such as psychiatric care and substance use treatment disorder services. And as we well know, we also provide services to our most vulnerable residents, providing a incredible Valley Homeless Health Care program, serving our veterans, families, and residents in the county of Santa Clara. Our 4 hospitals and health centers, if we go to the next one, next slide. Our 4 hospitals and health centers are geographically situated in communities across Santa Clara County, providing these essential services. As you will note on this population density map, which shows residents that are 400% of poverty and below, it clearly shows that our hospitals and health centers are situated in service to our entire community, and not to just residents that are on Medi-Cal or Medicare. It truly does serve all of our residents. 400% of poverty. It represents a family of 4 with an income of $128,000. 35% of our residents are at or below 400% of the FPL. All residents rely on our health system. Slide 6. This is a slide that I really wanted to share with this committee and emphasize the importance of what's happened over the past decade since the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. As you would note, back in 2012-13, our uninsured percentage of our payer mix represented 20% of our patient population, and today is down to 2% of our patient population being uninsured. What you will also note is that the percentage of Medicare has grown from 16% to 38%. And there's a very good reason for that. The acquisition of O'Connor Hospital, St. Louis Regional Medical Center, and now St. Louis Regional Medical Center and Regional Medical Center represent a very high proportion of individuals that are dependent on Medicare for their health care coverage. And so when we talk about our public health care system, we are not just speaking of the Medicaid population, the Medi-Cal population in Santa Clara County. We are also talking about those that are covered by Medicare. And in Santa Clara County, over 300 residents are enrolled in a Medicare program, on top of the 450,000 residents on Medicaid. Those are huge numbers relative to what your system has now become in service to our entire community. If we did not have these beds, acute hospital inpatient beds, or have the emergency room available for our community, we would be in dire straits relative to basic access to healthcare services in our community. But it was the bold decision of the board to actually have the foresight and understanding what it would mean to the community to preserve those 3 hospitals as part of our greater network of care.
But before Paul moves on from the slide, I just want to reemphasize 2 really powerful points from this. This board and the prior boards should be extraordinarily proud. Look at that unsponsored number, 20% down to 2%, and then look at the raw number, 108,500 to 236,125. This represents 2 truly extraordinary things. One is just how good a job this community has done in reducing the number of people without health insurance. We have done a better job, and the Affordable Care Act did amazing work across the United States. But that work, especially here in Santa Clara County, is just at a whole nother level. Really extraordinary work on the part of the county organization and its many partners. The second is, look at the number of people we're serving and taking care of in facilities that were otherwise closing with no other bidder at bankruptcy, or in the case of Regional Medical Center, service lines diminishing. And as we pointed out today at the baby shower, with a patient census that under our operation has doubled. These are thousands of county residents who are getting health care, and undoubtedly thousands of lives literally saved and families profoundly touched. And so that real impact on families in our community through the bold action and leadership of the county organization absolutely merits the attention of the whole community, and real thanks to the many thousands of people who are involved in making that possible, and the boldness of the board in supporting this action to actually realize this. So these are numbers, but these are families and these are lives, and there is no other public health care system in the United States that can show this.
Sorry, say that again? There's no other public health system that can show exactly what?
We're not the very, very largest public health care system in the United States, but when you look at it per capita, when you look at how many residents in our community are served by our public system, this is, you don't see this anywhere else.
Next slide, please. So some of this we have spoken to, but I just want to make sure that people understand that the key provisions of H.R. 1 are critically important for people to appreciate. The first of which is this directed payment that was touched on a little bit, but locally we leverage local dollars to draw down federal funding to increase the dollars that we have available to care for the Medi-Cal population. And that is because, as you well know, the Medi-Cal base rates that has been mentioned before is too low to cover the cost of the care that we provide. Those directed payments, beginning in 2028, are under threat from H.R. 1. It represents hundreds of millions of dollars to our healthcare system. Supervisor Ellenberg, you spoke about the MSU tax. Clearly, that was an effort to also use local dollars to leverage federal dollars to increase the base payments, to move away from just directed payments, but also to look at opportunities to increase the base payment for Medi-Cal. And that impacts not just your health system, but every other provider that is willing and able to see a Medi-Cal recipient in our county. That affects everyone. And then, of course, we've all talked about the new requirements to actually have coverage under Medi-Cal. And the new criteria and the additional checks that are going to take place will definitely push individuals off the rolls of Medi-Cal, and individuals will not have the ongoing access to care that they have today. Next slide, please. So just to sum it up for your healthcare system, we have an operating budget of $4.6 billion. $2 billion comes from the Medicaid program, the Medi-Cal program, $2 billion. We anticipate losing $1 billion of the $2 billion over the course of the implementation of H.R. 1. This year alone, we are looking, and this kind of reflects what James Williams had shared with you, we are looking at, as a healthcare system, $200 million in revenue shortfall for the current year, and upwards of $500 million next fiscal year for FY 26-27. Next slide, please. So what are we doing in response to H.R. 1? These are some of our key principles and our approaches, the first of which, as you well know, we cannot count on any additional county investment into our healthcare system. So we are fully committed in our strategies to manage within our means. We did not get an increase last year. We don't expect one next year, and so we will manage within our means. That means that we will have to make some really difficult decisions moving forward in terms of managing our costs, looking at efficiencies. The second point is that we will do everything possible to maximize our revenues. We look at it from improvements around our revenue cycle process, making sure that we're being paid for every service that we're providing at an appropriate rate from our payers. We are looking at opportunities to improve efficiency, to generate more revenue, to cover the cost of critical services. And I think more important than anything, given how your system has grown, is that we need to leverage the 4 hospitals in our entire system to ensure that we have an efficient way of delivering care. Looking at redundancies in our system, I think today we celebrated, as you well know, the labor and delivery opening at Regional Medical Center and the NICU services, but that came at a cost in some respect. One, as you well know, O'Connor Hospital has a legacy of providing perinatal services. But the reality is that we had to make a very difficult decision based on the data. And that data clearly suggested that we can do better in serving our community and be more cost effective and more efficient in the delivery of that care. And so we moved, which will be effective October 20th, labor and delivery and NICU services from O'Connor Hospital to Regional Medical Center, where the population will benefit to a much greater degree relative to those services and result in increased revenues and better management of our resources. That's one example. We are looking at some other major restructuring within our health system. More than likely, you will see those come forward in the FY 26-27 budget, but those range from service line consolidations in the area of cardiac care, service line consolidation and improvement in the way in which we provide certain specialty services in our healthcare system, so we can still maintain a certain level of service for our community that they have become accustomed to. But make no mistake about it, there will be resulting longer wait times and other implications that we may feel immediately, but many of which we will not encounter or experience until 6 months, a year from now, until we fully appreciate the level of other impacts in healthcare in our community in terms of the number of people that are going to fall off the rolls of covered California, let alone Medi-Cal. There is going to be more demand on your public healthcare system because we are the safety net system for all residents in this county. Next slide. This is the compounding effect that I just mentioned. Reductions in Medi-Cal revenue will impact service delivery for all residents. There are going to be less and fewer providers in our community that will be willing to take a Medi-Cal beneficiary into their practice because of the low reimbursement. That is the reality of healthcare. And those individuals will end up in not only our emergency rooms, but every emergency room in this county. That's the point number 2. And again, as I've said, we will bear the brunt relative to individuals losing coverage, not having access to primary care and other basic and essential services in our community. Next slide. And the final slide I just wanted to touch on, so this is the number of emergency room stations or beds per 100,000 residents. And you can see in Santa Clara County, we have about 18 beds per 100,000 residents, which is the lowest of other large counties in the state of California, including San Francisco, San Diego, LA. So just imagine if we lose additional ED capacity in this county, what it means for our residents. We're already at the short end of this chart, and every bed, emergency room bed in your 4 hospital are full. Half of the emergency room visits in this county go to your county, are provided by your county, 4 county hospitals, half. 750 patients a day, 275,000 emergency room visits in this county. And then, as I mentioned, in those emergency rooms, 80% of the trauma cases come to your county hospitals, 80%. So with that being said, those are my comments. Again, we're happy to take questions, but I think we're going to go through the rest of the presentations.
Good afternoon, Chair Young and Vice Chair Ellenberg. My name is Nick Clay. I'm the Director-in-Chief of the Emergency Medical Services Agency. And just wanted to, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Next slide. EMS is healthcare. An ambulance service in particular, the funding works the same way that Mr. Lorenz just articulated. Service delivery is followed by reimbursements from insurance provider. And that revenue is a balance between the volume and the payer mix, which is why most providers for ambulance service only collect 20 to 25 cents on the dollar. What you can see is really articulated here with 70% of the 911 transports in the county of Santa Clara are government payers. And just for context, that means the reimbursement for ambulance transport is about $150 to $600 depending on the insurance. Next slide. In terms of impacts to the EMS system, we all face the same challenges as all healthcare systems do. We expect some direct impacts to our providers through both reimbursement delays and reimbursement diminishing, as well as trade actions regards to tariffs and healthcare supplies. Those will be more immediate impacts. However, as articulated, our concern really is the indirect impacts, as delayed access to care and additional cuts to healthcare will continue to compound this effect of delayed access and really make patients who have basic access declined, preventative care declined, they'll only get sicker and less healthy as the days go by, increasing their reliance on the 911 system. Next slide. And really, when patients can't access their normal channels of care, the dominoes just fall to the next layer in the system until it ultimately lands on the EMS system. If you've ever called your doctor's office after hours, pretty much the first thing you'll hear is that this is an emergency, hang up and call 911. That's what this slide articulates, as those access points are removed, if it's an emergency, call 911. And the result, frankly, is fast access to care. And this will only, as HR 1 erodes access, these dominoes will only get bigger and they'll only fall faster. Next slide. So we talk about the direct impacts. Really, we're focused here on the reimbursement front. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of additional supplemental Medi-Cal programs that pay ambulance providers. There's both the PPIGT funds and GEMT funds that support public providers. Those are at risk, as well as the quality assurance fee for ambulance providers, private ambulance providers is also at risk. So any of those supplemental payments that would correct the $150 reimbursement to help bring them back to full cost recovery are at risk. And that really impacts the cost of readiness, which essentially is how many ambulances do you have available in your community today. If the 911 providers and IFT providers can't pay their staff, if they can't put gas in the ambulances, they can't put ambulances on the street. And as our volume, which we know is going to increase, the demand is going to increase, we're going to have a funding balance, and where the funding just won't be there to pay for the services. Next slide, please. And ultimately, all of these access points where we have reduced access to care collectively will have an impact on the hospitals and have an impact then on the 911 system. As Paul mentioned, if the EDs are impacted, ambulances will have to drive past one inundated ED to a less inundated emergency department. So it means their transport times will be longer. And then when they get to the hospital, the transfer of care to that patient will be even longer. And that 911 call that's waiting is just waiting for someone to be dropped off at a hospital. There's just not going to be enough resources to go around to take care of folks. Next slide, please. I want to pause here for just a moment. This is not a projection of what will happen. This is simply a slide for illustrative purposes. A worst case scenario. There are hard choices for all of us in healthcare, right? This is going to be a challenge, and I don't want to paint this like this is going to happen. But it's really illustrative that, so we picked a hospital in the center of our most metropolitan area in the county that services pretty much everyone in the county to show what the impact of a hospital closure will do to not only the healthcare system, but the EMS system. And it's just going to compound all of the problems we have. Those big dominoes we're expecting to get bigger from HR1 are going to be basically skyscrapers at this point. And then you end up with staffing challenges. As staff are being inundated with more calls, longer task time, longer time to take care of patients, and less access to care, staff will burn out. Staffing challenges will further compound these impacts. Next slide, please. So why do we pick O'Connor as an illustrative example? Look at the patient distribution. It's the county. All of these, it serves the entire county. That's illustrative really of a lot of our county hospitals, but O'Connor's a great example of where certainly there's a concentration in the center of San Jose, but it really does spread out to the community. Next slide, please. So O'Connor receives about 14,000 ambulance transports a year. So if it doesn't exist, where do they go? They have to go somewhere. It's unreasonable to accept they would just go to Valley. You can't send 14,000 patients to Valley. It would sink it. It's twice the volume. You can't split it between regional and Valley at 7,000 patients each. It's a 50% increase in volume. You can't do that either. Those patients have to go elsewhere. And this is just an illustrative example. Again, no predictions. It's impossible to predict where these patients would go. There's so many factors. But just based on geography of where they're close to, El Camino Los Gatos would have a 40% increase in volume. That's almost a catastrophic increase, that facility. Kaiser Santa Clara, a 17% increase, which may not seem like a lot, but that's hours and hours and hours of bed delay. That's throughput challenges. That's ambulance patient offload delays increasing almost exponentially. Next slide, please. But there's hope on the horizon to some degree. We can't sit here on our hands and wait for these impacts to come. So we are taking a proactive approach. There's really only a few limited options we have. We can't just add ambulances and add ambulances and ambulances. It just becomes cost prohibitive at some point. And it's really not going to solve it's not be the solution to the problem. So really 3 points we look at really is the call. So making sure that we do some public education on what is an emergency. Just because your doctor's office is closed that's not an emergency. Making sure that when they call, they get a good triage so that we can send the right resource to the right patient. Making sure our responses are adjusted so that we send low acuity ambulances to low acuity calls, and that we direct those calls that can be directed out of the 911 system to a nurse health line. And lastly, supporting the hospital network through a really robust IFT system so that hospitals can decompress and make sure that patients are moving to get the right care at the right time. Last slide, please. So at the end of the day, it's really just to sort of highlight as well that while HR1 is certainly coming and will have an impact on the EMS and 911 system, it's also to highlight that EMS at one point was in a case of emergency service, and it's now becoming a primary access point to healthcare. HR1 will just expand that faster. That timeline is coming. It's coming now. So just again, thank you for the opportunity to discuss this in a really proactive and engaging manner, and appreciate your time.
I just want to add an exclamation point to what Nick presented regarding a possible hospital closure. We've gotten a lot of questions over the last 2 months about Why did the county step in and buy 2 hospitals out of bankruptcy? Why did the county step in and buy Regional Medical Center, restore trauma services there? This is why. There's 3 important and powerful reasons why. Number 1, we're saving lives, period. Number 2, it is much more cost effective. It's much more fiscally prudent to deliver care where it's needed and to have geographic access to care than to try to build a 10 times larger emergency department at the Valley Medical Center campus. It's fiscally prudent. And third, these hospitals are busy. They are very busy. And the idea that this community would lack access to this infrastructure, nobody thinks twice about the fact that, why does Santa Clara County have an airport or freeways? We recognize that if you want to be a thriving community, you need certain infrastructure. If you want to host certain events, you need certain infrastructure. If you want to have world-class businesses, you need certain infrastructure. We cannot take for granted as a community that one of those most important pieces of vitally essential and literally life-saving infrastructure is access to hospital care. And those stats, the volume, those numbers are on the one hand very tangible, very literal, individuals, and of course every family member and friend that those individuals touch. And on the other hand, those numbers are numbers that are very big numbers that can't just be moved off the map. And you can just look at that data, and what you see is we have been able to do something pretty remarkable as a community, which is, but for H.R. 1, we have actually drawn into our county and into our community billions of dollars a year in federal and other resources to preserve access to this life-saving health care with a very modest investment of local match. If we told you you could apply for a grant and run this hospital system and the grant had a 12% match, people would be blown away. And that is the financing of our health system. And so candidly, the people who are asking some of those questions, I don't blame them, but they have the premise completely backwards. Completely backwards in what we have been able to do to draw resources in to provide this extraordinary care in the community. That's what we're fighting to preserve here. H.R. 1 undercuts the most important and significant revenue source, but we absolutely are fighting to preserve exactly that system.
We're going to thank you for the very sobering presentation. I don't know if I'm ready for more, but we're ready for more. We're going to continue the presentations for this panel, and then we'll say reserve discussion after the panel presentations are done.
Hi, thank you. Megan Wheelahan, Deputy Director for Behavioral Health Services Department. So the County of Santa Clara Behavioral Health Services Department serves some of our community's most vulnerable residents. This includes Medi-Cal beneficiaries and people without access to benefits who cannot afford their own care and need either specialty mental health care or substance use treatment. Many of our beneficiaries experience homelessness, incarceration, institutionalization, and struggle to access basic safety net services because of their behavioral health challenges. Next slide, please. The Behavioral Health Services Department is a part of our county's health system, and we work closely with Santa Clara Valley Healthcare hospitals and clinics to provide a very coordinated and comprehensive response to community members' mental health and substance use treatment needs. We support a network that includes 124 mental health clinics, 26 substance use treatment clinics, and 24 dual or co-occurring disorder clinics. BHSD also operates the county's 90-day crisis and suicide prevention hotline, which answers thousands of calls monthly and almost 200,000 calls annually. We also provide the larger community with mobile crisis response services, which provides anyone experiencing behavioral health crisis in the community with caring and effective interventions and linkages to services. Our department manages an integrated network of mental health, substance use, and co-occurring services to help our beneficiaries achieve the best possible outcomes. Last year, we provided almost 30,000 people with mental health treatment services and more than 4,700 people with substance use treatment services. This is a remarkable impact on our community. The majority of these services are delivered by our valued county contracted providers, and the department also directly operates a system of dedicated mental health and substance use treatment clinics. Together, we provide people the care they need to recover and achieve their hopes and dreams. Next slide, please. 88%, or over 29,000 of the 31,000 people we serve, are Medi-Cal beneficiaries. The rest are people without Medi-Cal or other health insurance who cannot afford other options for care. Next slide, please. Because Behavioral Health Services Department's program serves so many Medi-Cal recipients, and Medi-Cal revenue is our largest funding source for all the work that we do, we are very concerned about the impacts of H.R. 1. Work requirements, twice annual reapplications, and other barriers to care are expected to have real and serious impacts on the number of people to whom we can offer care, which could leave thousands without access to behavioral health services. These are all terrible steps backward on our plans to address the mental health and substance use crisis in our county. We are working with our county contracted providers and stakeholders to identify the least impactful ways to adapt to these changes in funding. We will maximize revenue and improve efficiency. Beyond that, we will partner with the Social Services Agency and our providers to keep our very vulnerable clients enrolled in Medi-Cal if at all possible. Nonetheless, the impacts are going to severely impact our ability to continue to expand at the rate we have been doing so to meet the needs in the community. So thank you for this opportunity to discuss that.
Please continue with the next presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Monica Roy, the Acting Deputy Health Officer for the Public Health Department. Thank you to the board for allowing me to share some comments and thoughts on behalf of the Public Health Department. There is no question that the impacts of H.R. 1 on healthcare access and nutrition will hit hardest those who are most vulnerable and who rely on public systems for health and nutrition. This includes low-income families and children. As is noted before, we expect to see both immediate and long-term impacts. And in contrast to the numbers that were shared earlier, I'd like to just share a story about a family. This is a family with a child living with asthma who, because of the H.R. 1 changes, loses insurance coverage. This family now must buy an albuterol inhaler out of pocket, which means spending over $100 every few months. That's $100 that's now not available to purchase groceries for the family. That need is even greater now that CalFresh nutrition benefits are at risk. In other words, this family is choosing between helping their child breathe or making sure their child has enough food to eat. Now imagine on a longer time frame that same child's mother has diabetes, but with no access to health care, she receives neither a diagnosis nor treatment. Her life expectancy drops by years, and healthcare costs rise as she ultimately seeks urgent or emergent care for long-term complications of diabetes. The short and long-term impacts on this family are far-reaching. And that's just one family that we're talking about. Now, a point that is not always as apparent, but has been discussed already here this afternoon, is that the impacts of H.R. 1 will not only affect those that are uninsured or low income, it will affect every resident, regardless of their wealth or insurance status. What is being destroyed is not just individual access to health care, but the entire health ecosystem is being disrupted. The closure of hospitals, as is already occurring in rural areas in some parts of the country and state, mean precious minutes of delay getting to the next nearest facility to stop life-threatening bleeding after a car accident or to receive a stent that restores blood flow during a heart attack. Even without full hospital closure, the overcrowding of emergency rooms with individuals seeking basic medical care means delays in getting the CAT scan, looking for a bleed after a fall, or in administering the clot-busting drug to prevent or to preserve brain function in someone experiencing a stroke. Sometimes this will lead to dramatic losses of life, but even more frequently, it will lead to more years of life lived with a disability or in chronic pain, less mobility or ability to care for oneself or loved ones, or the inability to work at all. Finally, as a public health physician, I would be remiss not to mention how H.R. 1 may affect us as a community on a larger scale. In the last century, life expectancy increased by over 30 years due to interventions such as vaccinations, antibiotics, and cancer screening. We know from well-established research that being insured adds on years to life expectancy because it provides access to these services. With the loss of healthcare access, instead of moving forward as a community, we stand to lose the significant gains in health that have been made in the last century. I'll also note that other changes at the federal level are not only impacting the public's health by disrupting healthcare access, but the public health department itself has been hard hit, and as was mentioned earlier this afternoon. Not only do we rely on federal grants, which have become increasingly complex to access, but as Mr. Williams mentioned, our public health department works with partners and experts at the federal level and depends on these partnerships in relation to data, surveillance, and disease expertise. Many of these partners now no longer exist after the extensive cuts being made at the CDC and other federal agencies. Finally, the attack on science, and in particular vaccines, which I'd like to note is single-handedly one of the most effective advancements in human health, is dismaying and alarming. What is currently being dismantled in public health cannot be rebuilt overnight. Years from now, as we begin to see the full effects of H.R. 1 due to lack of healthcare access, weakened health institutions, including public health, will be ill-prepared to respond. Thankfully, here in the County of Santa Clara, all individuals 6 months and older continue to have access to the updated flu and COVID vaccines. We are working at the Public Health Department actively with healthcare providers to ensure they know how to order the vaccines and who should be getting them this respiratory virus season. We continue to provide evidence-based information to our county residents, and we work to combat vaccine misinformation in the middle of this increasingly deadly storm. Thank you.
Thank you for those. I think I've used the word sobering too many times, and we keep on getting more sobering. Just thank you for that presentations. Susan, do you have any questions or comments?
I wish this segment was required listening for every resident of our county. I have been talking about H.R. 1 during the day and Measure A in the evenings every single day, and I have yet to make the case as powerfully and eloquently as any of you have. Each time I think I know a lot and am able to discuss this, I find the EMS presentation was absolutely mind-blowing. I had not thought about it in the way you presented the material, and O'Connor isn't even a level 1 trauma center. So that number of calls was just again, kind of mind-boggling. I don't think I have questions. This is so much to absorb. It's so scary. Our tasks ahead could not be more clear. But it is really scary. It is really scary to think about how dramatically backwards we're going to go and how hard it's going to be rebuilt, how hard it will be to rebuild, even when at some point in the future, as I imagine has to happen, things will get better. You can't turn systems back on so quickly. You can't reopen a hospital. You can't cure people who have developed chronic illnesses because they haven't had health care for 5 years. Thank you. Thank you all for the presentation. And I know we record meetings. I hope that your words will be shared very, very broadly. I certainly intend to echo a lot of them. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm exhausted just from listening.
Yeah, I think hard to find words right now, but this is absolutely devastating what's before us. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for carrying this task with you every day, to not just serve our residents in this moment, but to be looking out for them and trying to figure out how to mitigate the devastation that we know is sure to come. It's no easy task. None of this is to be taken lightly, and it's another example of just immense pride I have in this county organization for always leading first on all the most challenging fronts, and to do it with heart and with soul and with this unyielding commitment to our public service for those who others are not going to care about until it comes to their doorstep, until the issue is there. I'm afraid to ask this, kind of. Paul, you had mentioned that it's at least another 6 months before we start feeling significant impacts as an outcome of HR1. Where do you anticipate seeing these impacts first, or where do you think it'll be the most heavy or significant?
Thank you, Supervisor. So my comments regarding the delay and the impact are not just the short term in terms of 6 months, but much longer. And I think the Deputy Public Health Officer explained it rather well, which is in many instances when people stop accessing basic health care, not just primary care, but getting their screenings done, that will roll into years of damage to their health and ultimately to this community related to the cost of providing for the acute care necessary to care for them. And so my comments really are reflective of whatever we do to the system today in terms of health care will have a ripple effect for generations to come. When we talk about, just as we discussed this morning, L&D services, I mean, these are life-changing services for a community. And as you remove those critical and essential services from your healthcare system, because we are going to have to make some very difficult decisions in order to come up with $200 million this year, another $500 million next year. We only can provide services with the revenues and the dollars we have. We cannot, as James has put it, print money. So those are the implications that we are confronting and have to plan for going forward.
Thank you, Paul. It's very frustrating to know that all of this, the generations of harm that is to come, is directly the outcome of a manufactured crisis that just needs not to exist. Thank you for giving us a lot of information today to mull over. I anticipate many more conversations to follow as we continue to absorb and process this information that's been presented. Look for other ways to mitigate as we head towards this future. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and Godspeed.
Thank you all so much for today and for the work you do every day.
And I agree. This should be required viewing for every resident and voter in the county when the next time they ask us what's happening to our county. Okay. Thank you. In the interest of time, we're going to move on to the next panel. Our social services safety net panel is up next, and we'll be taking a deeper dive, looking at the specific impacts to county safety net services, including impacts to our local food system. I want to thank Ilona Petgolia Gaverges, our Director of Employment Benefits Services. I hope I said your name right. You did. Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you for participating this afternoon, and you're here to help us understand the breadth of cuts coming across the system that so many of our most vulnerable rely on to meet their most basic needs. So many of the services that I know members of this board, myself included, grew up relying on. So you're here to give us the news, the what's what. And I want to also thank Casey Hill, the Acting Director of our Office of Sustainability and Resilience, for joining us today. And all right, whenever you're ready, please continue with the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. This presentation is really difficult to do. What makes it difficult is knowing that the people affected will come to us directly with their stories, their struggles, and their questions. HR 1 limits our ability to help them in the manner they deserve to. So that's going to be tough for all of us. In the next few slides, I'll review who's impacted by HR 1, the impacts on our funding, the effects on CalFresh and Medi-Cal benefits, and finally, the action the department is currently taking to help mitigate. Next slide, please. HR 1 primarily targets low-income families and individuals, immigrants, refugees, and communities of color. It has a multi-pronged attack focusing on strict work and reporting requirements, which will result in people losing benefits even when they're meeting the work requirements. It imposes unprecedented cost-sharing requirement on the state and/or counties. 53% of social services agencies' annual budget for fiscal year 25-26 comes from the federal funding. 39% of our budget comes from the state funding. Less than 10% of our funding comes from the general fund. Federal funding is passed through the state and then to county governments for social services programs. The county currently receives federal funding based on our administrative cost share and benefits enrollment. For CalFresh program, as you've heard today, we serve over 133,000 individuals. 25% of those are children under the age of 18. 30% are adults between 65 and older. 45% are adults aged 18 to 64. I'm going to review a few of the most important provisions of HR 1 related to CalFresh. First are the expanded work requirements, ultimately affecting 55,000 individuals. That's 55,000 out of 57,000 adults aged 18 to 64. That's 96% of the adults receiving CalFresh. The work requirements have changed where it's expanded the age requirement to 64 years old, previously 54. It removes exception for homeless individuals, for veterans, and those 24 and younger who aged out of foster care. It limits the exception based on responsibility to care for dependent child to those with a child under 14 years of age. It used to be 18. Waivers are very unlikely to be granted.
I just want to pause on this for a moment. Go back for a second. Or here, the slide's fine too. We can't forget just how callous and egregious the policy-related impacts are from HR 1. Think about the populations targeted here. And just look at that list. Our former foster youth, the elderly, the homeless, veterans. Those are the folks that have been chosen to be singled out in HR 1 for denial of food assistance. So in addition to all the big picture things we've been talking about, there's some micro pieces here that just demonstrate a whole nother level of harm of callousness towards some of the most vulnerable in our community. And certainly in the case of veterans, folks who have given so much to our country. And we can't let that just slide. There's so much to talk about here, but I wanted to call that out because it just shows what, what's behind this bill. And it shows its true colors, I think, in a very palpable way.
Next slide, please. The current waiver we have in place for work requirements is expiring very, very soon, and new waivers are not expected to be granted. As stated before, it's very unlikely due to stricter waiver eligibility criteria that California will receive a waiver for work requirements. I'd like to emphasize how unprecedented this is. We've never had to discontinue anyone in this population before due to administrative reasons, such as not complying with their reporting requirements or not meeting the required hours. We've always been able to rely on the state for waivers for this entire population. This population must work or perform other qualified activities. What does other qualified activities mean? It is somewhat undefined now. But we're working with the state to find out exactly what would fall under the umbrella of other qualified activities, which we assume likely will include workfare and volunteer work. So they have to have at least 80 hours per month. If you lose your benefits, you can regain eligibility by satisfying able-bodied adult work requirements for any consecutive 30-day period, which means for 30 days, you receive no benefits until you come back with verifications providing that you met the hours for 30 days. The second hit is for immigration ineligibility. It limits eligibility to U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents, green card holders. It removes eligibility for certain long-standing or humanitarian statuses apart from certain Cuban, Haitian nationals, and COFA nationals. County impact, 2,000 individuals. I'd like to state that the estimate of 2,000 individual is on the low end and likely to increase because USDA FNS is expected to utilize a narrower definition of what constitutes a lawful permanent resident than the one currently used. When it comes to cost sharing, HR 1 also shifts the cost to states and counties. Administrative cost shifting reduces federal contribution from 50% to 25%, making states and counties liable for 75%. This goes into effect October 1st, 2026. It benefits cost sharing, requires state to contribute the cost of food benefits for the first time in history. This goes into effect October 1st, 2027. I'd like to also emphasize that these costs will likely be passed along to counties given the state of California's current fiscal challenges. The estimated county impact is $7 million for fiscal year 26 to 27, rising to $70 million for fiscal year 28-29. I know we've heard numbers about Medi-Cal, but we wanted to put that into perspective. More than 400,000. That is basically 1 in 4 county residents rely on Medi-Cal. 15% of those are adults 65 and older. 26 are children under 18. 59% are adults aged 18 to 64. Some of the impacts are the Medi-Cal work reporting requirements. This is something completely new to our Medi-Cal recipients. Individuals aged 19 to 64 must perform 80 hours a month of work, education, or community engagement. Again, we need clarification of what constitutes community engagement. Exemptions are available for tribes, fully disabled veterans, parents, or caregivers with children aged 13 and under, or of disabled individuals, pregnant women, former foster youth, and those deemed medically frail or with special medical needs. According to Congressional Budget Office, these requirements produce the single largest saving to the federal government of any of the Medicaid cuts, saving that will come from individuals losing coverage. These requirements go into effect January 1st, 2027. Just to put a number to it, there are just over 120,000 individuals in the 19 to 64 age range who will be affected by the work requirements. Additionally, approximately 65,000 adults with unsatisfactory immigration status may be affected by the state budget changes that will take effect next year. We also have more frequent redetermination due to HR 1 impacts. Currently, our clients are required to do annual redetermination. That is now changing to every 6 months. Individuals receiving SSI benefits are exempt. Having a twice annual renewal process basically doubles the chance that recipients could lose their Medi-Cal coverage for administrative reasons like not updating their address or not turning in their renewal forms. These requirements go into effect January 1st, 2027. What is DEBS doing? What actions is SSA and DEBS taking in response to HR 1? We are forming a dedicated unit to manage client engagement, assessment, and tracking for individuals referred to that unit. The unit work will include expanding our current CalFresh employment and training program, recruiting additional workforce sites, facilitating volunteer opportunities. We're doing outreach. We are partnering with, as you heard in the previous panel, we're partnering with local clinics, schools, community-based organizations to reach anyone who may be affected by HR 1. Outreach efforts include providing community members with multilingual materials and culturally responsive messaging, as well as emphasizing renewal deadlines and documentation requirements. We're launching a mail campaign targeting all non-exempt able-bodied adults ahead of the implementation date next year. Each client will receive a cover letter and the screening form that will allow them to self-identify potential exemptions or opt for voluntary participation in the CalFresh employment training program. We're placing flyers in all our county lobbies and posting social media messaging to engage the return of the screening forms and client engagement. We're doing data monitoring. Monthly dashboards have been developed to provide a clear at-a-glance summary and detailed breakdown for each category of the full able-bodied adults, also known as ABODs. We are also participating in state meetings and work group participations. We are active participants in various work groups that are held by CDSS and DHCS related to the implementation of HR 1 in the county. We will continue to work with the state for possible improvements to its system, to be able to possibly do data matches to automatically exempt as many enrollees as possible from having to go through the manual reporting process. We're hoping to improve the process of reporting work activities through the state system. In summary, the extent to which we can help mitigate these harmful impacts will depend largely on proactive and effective outreach efforts and on the system and processes the state can put in place to auto-exempt or auto-verify eligible individuals. The underlying intent of HR 1 is to save federal dollars by making it harder for people to stay enrolled, essentially banking money through coverage loss, not through genuine efficiencies or improved outcomes. It is quite clear that Congress and federal administration understands this point. On the work reporting requirements, especially for Medicaid, a lot of studies have found, including the Congressional Budget Office itself, that work reporting requirements have little or no effect on employment or hours worked. As we previously discussed, most adults on Medicaid nationally are working adults. The reason work requirements are expected to produce such a large savings, and they definitely know this, is because individuals who are otherwise eligible are eligible and meet the work requirements or qualify for an exemption are disenrolled due to paperwork barriers or red tapes. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to thank the committee for the opportunity to talk a little bit more about the wider effects of HR 1 on the food system. My name is Casey Hill. I'm the acting director of the County Office of Sustainability and Resilience. So I'm going to start with this slide just to give a quick intro. The next set of slides that I'll go through quickly is just to present some of the additional cascading effects that these cuts are going to have, in particular on our local food retailers where families purchase food, on the farmers and agricultural workers that supply those retailers, and finally on the network of local food assistance organizations countywide. And next slide, please. So to begin with the impact on local food retailers, our supermarkets, grocery stores, restaurants, and farmers markets rely on CalFresh customers. And studies have shown, multiple studies have shown that SNAP stimulates economic output and employment in local communities. In fact, a previous study by the USDA itself found that programs like SNAP have an economic multiplier effect with values of up to $2 of economic activity for every dollar spent. In many ways, then, SNAP cuts threaten the viability of our local retailers, which serve as economic and community anchors in all of our neighborhoods. And I would ask you to picture the grocery store, the farmer's market, where you shop with your families. In many cases, we know that these are trusted, familiar, even third spaces, additional homes for us in our neighborhoods, and they rely on income from a range of customers. In fact, 30 of our 40 farmers markets in Santa Clara County accept CalFresh. And it is ironic that also many of the same community members who will be most directly impacted by the cuts to CalFresh and Medi-Cal are those that run and work at our local grocery and corner stores, restaurants. And they grow the produce that stock those shelves, they fill the farmers market tables and the food boxes. So in summary, for this particular point, decreased CalFresh funds circulating in our local economy translates to direct effects on food retailers and the food sectors, the other sectors that support them. Next slide, please. Santa Clara County is blessed with both urban vibrancy and agricultural bounty. The gross value of Santa Clara County agriculture is nearly $400 million. And these farmers and agricultural workers count on the food retail sector as a dependable market channel for a highly diversified range of crops that are grown in our local food shed. Decreases in CalFresh funding will also have a direct impact on their viability. In a recent conversation with a farmer in Gilroy, he stressed his concern about how decreased revenue for farmers also translates to less spending in rural areas at other local businesses that support the ag sector. So you could think about irrigation supplies, fertilizer, equipment. So yet another ripple effect of a decrease in CalFresh spending. Additionally, numerous federal programs and grants that support infrastructure, technical assistance, and increased access to stable and reliable markets for farms and farm workers have been stopped, such as Farms Together and our USDA regional food business centers, just to name a couple. Next slide, please. So this may seem to go without saying, and yet we cannot stress it enough. Cuts to CalFresh and Medi-Cal will also send more local residents seeking services through food banks and food assistance programs, organizations that are already strained to meet the needs of our communities. These organizations are currently grappling with how to ramp up meal and grocery distribution, even as funding for food assistance overall has declined. Exacerbating the funding gap is the cancellation of the USDA household food security reports, which have been issued since 1995 and serve as an assessment of how well programs like SNAP are working. So we'll no longer have that baseline data at the national level to track food insecurity. Next slide, please. And finally, I want to touch briefly, of course, on sustainability. We cannot contemplate the future of our local food system without considering the disproportionate impact it has on sustainability. How we grow and dispose of food impacts our climate, and in turn, our climate change poses an increasing threat to food security and the overall stability of our food systems. They are inextricably linked to each other. So given the overall budgetary impacts of HR 1 to the county, in addition to the direct rollbacks of significant federal funding for climate resilience, environmental justice programs, county departments will inevitably be faced with the prospect of redirecting resources and capital away from sustainability initiatives in order to address core operational needs and services. Mr. Williams mentioned the repeals through HR 1 to tax credits for clean energy. This changes the course of our energy sector. HR 1 also cuts SNAP funding while increasing subsidies for industrial commodity crops that favor large ag over smaller, more diversified, and environmentally sustainable farming practices. Overall, HR 1 impacts compromise our ability to invest in the long-term resilience of communities, infrastructure, and natural resources that deliver these very same social safety net services to our community. Climate change intensifies social vulnerability, and the weakening of our safety nets further entrenches the systematic vulnerabilities. It's an awful but undeniable feedback loop that these cuts will perpetuate for years to come. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I was just reflecting up here that I may not have been emotionally ready for today's context and the context that were provided today. Ilona, thank you to you and your team for the incredible work that you are doing to keep people enrolled and to continue enrolling people before things get even far worse than where we are today. I anticipate many requests coming your way from my office for presentations that we can take to our community members and our residents in various languages as this future comes closer and looms over us. It's really just all just disturbing what this federal government has imposed upon us. Yeah. I was going to turn to... No, not yet. I'm just doing questions.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, I'm sorry. Nope. Yeah. Not doing closing statements yet. We're not there yet. Although we're over time. But Casey, thank you for your work. Before I joined the board, you completed the food systems work plan, or with the update in 2024. But that was, I think we all agree, that was against a very different landscape. And with the landscape we're facing today, really would like to get to, I'm wondering about your plans for updating it, adjusting it, or recontextualizing the food systems work plan for today's landscape.
Sure, thank you for the question. So with regard to operationalizing the food system work plan, we have a strong coalition of representation across county departments, looking to SSA right here, but across many departments through our county food system kitchen cabinet. And in fact, this fall, later this month, we'll be meeting to develop an action plan for 2026, primarily in direct response to HR 1 impacts. And we may decide at that point that it's a time to refresh some of the strategies. The kitchen cabinet, our network of countywide CBOs, of course our cities, other counties, and even philanthropic organizations are all part of a network that we will rely on moving forward. And I want to just point out that the Resident Advisory Committee, which is called for by our food system work plan, is also an active advisory body to our county departments when it comes to food system related strategies.
Thank you, Casey. I look forward to the work that's coming before us. I wish we didn't have to be in this environment to have to respond in this way. This is something that I would like this committee to partner with your office on, the developments of the food systems work plan and its next iteration to tackle this these issues that we're facing now. I was just at the Martha's Kitchen re-grand opening last night. They've moved into a larger facility, in the heart of Little Saigon, and they're going to be able to deliver double the current food support they provide, more than double 7 million meals a year. But it feels like even with this immense growth, there's also immense growth of the problem. So I look forward to hearing back about the food systems work plan to be brought here to FGOC. And then my next question is that, it's really disturbing to know the federal government is no longer tracking food security levels in our community, and also deeply affecting me that when I saw your map that the cluster of red and orange is literally the outline of my district on the county map. To what extent are we able to do this locally to continue tracking food insecurity levels, and to understand the level of need and how we're meeting it?
Thank you for the question. I will say that is an emerging priority, certainly, for the food system work, is to better coordinate and report on data that is local to our county, in particular in absence of the nationwide statistics and data.
Thank you. Thank you, Ilona. Thank you, Casey. I'm going to turn to Vice Chair Ellenberg for any questions or comments, and then after that, Colin will go to any public comment for the whole of item 5.
Thank you both. Once again, the presentations were powerful, informative, and deeply painful to listen to. Alana, I loved hearing about all of the engagement efforts that your office and your team are making. I remember vaguely, maybe misremember, something in the HR 1 that prohibits county administrators or staff from helping potential recipients of Medicaid and CalFresh from filling out their forms and being of use. Does that sound, do I misremember that?
I don't recall seeing that,
Okay.
Supervisor, and I turned looking at our
Nobody does.
amazing program and policy staff that are here. We don't recall seeing that because part of what we do is assisting clients in filling
Right, so
out
hopefully that
company.
was a bit of misinformation that I
would
absorbed
hope
along
so.
the way. So nobody knows about that. Fantastic.
No, I
Okay,
haven't heard about
Thank you
that.
for clearing that up.
Thank you so much for your presentations. Casey, may I have a report outcome to FGOC after your fall meeting that you referenced? Oh, thank you. We'll stay on top of this, and we'll stay on top of it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Colin, are there any public comments for item 5?
There is one request to speak in the room and none on Zoom. We
Okay.
have Elisa Koff-Ginsburg. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Please approach the podium.
Welcome, Elisa. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Elisa Koff-Ginsburg with the Behavioral Health Community Association. The words sobering and painful really resonate with how I'm feeling this afternoon listening to this. I think about Supervisor Ellenberg, the number of times I've heard you quote Mr. Rogers saying that at those really scary and tragic times, we have to look to the helpers in our neighborhood. And I couldn't help but feel that in this case, it's our county executive, all the county administrative staff, our amazing board of supervisors, all my colleagues at nonprofits that provide services, and that we need to hold on to that during these scary times. While they are unprecedented, in a conversation we had yesterday at a BHCA meeting, we talked about how we can look to past difficult times when providers and county staff work together to identify strategies for making unavoidable cuts to try to mitigate the impact on the vulnerable communities that we serve. And my organization asked me to be here today to just give voice to their readiness to partner with the county and use that past experience as a blueprint in moving forward, even though we don't know where all this is going. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Our final speaker is Terry Hines. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Please approach the podium.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Co-Chair, and thank you, Committee, very much. Terry Hines, Campbell City Council, District 1, and CEO of Novatech Services. County services are, as we've heard, are serving all of us. This is the hardest hit are those that are most in need, and it's an impending humanitarian crisis. I have endorsed the county efforts in Measure A, and I look to continue however I can to work to support and to bring Campbell as much support as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines.
Thank you, Terry.
That concludes our request to speak.
All right. As much as it pains me to put an end to today's conversation, I know that it's only ending now in this structured meeting schedule, that there'll be more conversations to come. Elisa, Terry, thank you for exhibiting solidarity and allyship during this really troubling time, knowing that the rest of the other counties will be looking to our county as the blueprint. We have our work cut out for us, but I know we have the best partners available to do this work with us. And sincere thank you for everyone's time today as you step away from your life-saving, emergency operations, jobs, and daily tasks to be here with us to educate our collective bodies to be able to better understand what we're heading into. I'm going to invite County Executive James to make any brief closing comments you would like to share with our committee today.
Before we move on to that item, I just wanted to announce for the record that there were no comments on general public comment item number 3.
Oh, Colin, thank you so much. So item 3 was moved to this portion of the meeting, and there are no requests to speak. Great. We will move from item 3 to closing comments. James?
I just want to thank both members of the committee for giving us this forum to highlight just some of the very serious and significant impacts that we're facing together as a community. And this is work that we must do together as a community. I appreciate the public comment from BHCA. We have many partners. We have done incredible work together across all of Santa Clara County. We have faced extraordinary crises before. Not just the pandemic, which is one that comes right away to mind, but many others. We fought to preserve those 2 hospitals out of bankruptcy. We had to literally fight the Attorney General to be able to proceed with that bankruptcy acquisition. We fought to preserve and save services at Regional Medical Center. We fought together as a community to preserve that access because that's what this community demanded. That is what voices from across the county stood up to advocate for, and not just to make demands, stood up and put the work in to bring those challenges and turn them around and deliver the results that we have seen today. And so even though it is very easy to feel just incredible overwhelm at what we're facing at the federal level, and I struggle with this daily. We haven't talked about the litany of other things coming our way federally, policy changes and other actions that really threaten democracy itself. It's very easy in the midst of all that to feel overwhelmed, to feel discouraged and down, especially when our county organization is facing such a magnitude of threat and crisis, and especially when we're seeing some of the values we hold most dear turned on their head nationally. But I find incredible hope and resilience and strength in the fact that I get to work with so many extraordinarily talented and gifted folks who have a heart and commitment for public service, that I get to work for a board of supervisors that's willing to serve and is willing to stand up for those values at a time when it is exceedingly difficult to be in elected office and to take bold and aggressive actions. And I feel incredibly fortunate to live in this county and raise my family in this county, in a community that has time and again stood up for these values and delivered on that promise. That's where I root myself, and I encourage all of our staff and all those who love this organization and the work we do to center around the families and the people that we serve. That is why we are here. And in centering on those families, we will continue to find extraordinary inspiration. We will continue to find hope. We will continue to be able to be resilient. We are celebrating our 175th birthday this year as a county organization. We will be here for a long time to come, and we will do everything we possibly can to ensure that we are here for every family in our community when they need us. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I turn to my vice chair for closing statements.
I first joined this board in January of 2019, and over the last 7 years, I have actually found that when things are the hardest, whether it was the labor strike in 2019, of course, COVID right now, and other fires and challenges along the way, it's when things are hardest that I find the most meaning in doing this work and the most overflowing gratitude to be in a position where I can, along with so many others, work to have impact, to try to alleviate suffering, to make our county more equitable, more fair, healthier. It is granted easier to lead in a great economy and when things are good. But I think rising in these difficult times shows what we are all made of. And I see everywhere I look in this county, people rising, people seeing that things are really hard and really scary and not stepping away, but saying, I'm here to help. Thank you, Elisa. I do always look for the helpers, and I see them everywhere here. So I'm under no illusions that everybody is going to be happy with the Board of Supervisors over the next year as we are compelled to make decisions that absolutely nobody wants. But I also know that how we collectively respond to this crisis is going to have a lasting impact on our public and private systems, whether we're talking about food, housing, or healthcare. And that's a heavy responsibility, and one that I think would be impossible to bear without the work of this phenomenal organization. I want to do well by every county employee, by every county resident. I want my colleagues to appreciate serving with me, and I'm here to do the work. I'm grateful to you, Supervisor Young, for pulling this meeting together today. I am a little bit stunned at how much I learned, but full of gratitude for you too.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, James. Thank you for helping us close out on a note of hope and resilience, which is something that I know the county is in no short order of. That's what we keep on doing. I do have some brief comments and appreciate your forbearance. From time to time, circumstances conspire in such ways that we are each called to rise above what we previously thought were our limits, to achieve more than we thought we could. I thought my limit was COVID-19 when I served in the Emergency Operations Center. Then I thought my limit was the first time I ever ran for office, which is a traumatic experience in its own, but different story, different day. And now we are living in this time where we are again pushed to our limits extended beyond what we thought we were capable of. The decisions we'll confront while navigating around $1 billion plus hole are not the reasons why any of us chose a career in public services, and yet here we are. We are called to bring creativity and compassion to this conversation. We need to be open to partnerships and solutions that previously may have seemed like non-starters. Hopefully that's a silver lining to all this, where it's hard to find some shimmer or glimmer of hope, is that collectively all of our agencies and institutions, whether it be local, state, or federal, are kind of on fire. So there are no options to turn away from each other, but to lean in and dig in cooperation. And we will continue to remain centered on our mission to deliver the best services we can to the 2 million people who call Santa Clara County home. It's hard to say I enjoyed any part of today's presentation. I am grateful for the presentation, but there's not much to like about $1 billion gut punch to our safety net system. But I do appreciate the truth-telling around the scale and impact so that we can work on finding the least damaging solutions and move forward together to continue to provide vital services to our residents. What's clear today, what was presented, is that this is not a business as usual time. And I know that I already knew, and I'm further encouraged today to know that we've all been working as hard as we can to mitigate the impacts that were to come, and that our county has been running faster than any other county in the state and nation in trying to address these challenges head on. James, I could see why you moved. I'm so grateful for your leadership. You moved as fast as you did, and almost in a whiplash manner with this board to find ways, out of the box, innovative ways, hard ways to meet these very hard challenges and mitigate as much as possible, knowing that Measure A won't save the day, but at least it'll give us some reprieve, are the type of fights that we're basically pursuing now. Yeah. So I'm thinking about the February midterm review of the budget and our annual budget process. It won't be looking the same this year. I think that's safe to assume. Given the unknown impacts of the next fiscal year, I'm wondering if we might need a more robust process than we normally undergo. And I'd like to ask that discussion of this be brought to the committee for consideration prior to the end of the calendar year, and that it include the most up-to-date information on the status of the federal budget ahead and its impacts on the county. How does that sound, James, and how would you like to see that structured?
We can certainly do that and bring something to the committee to talk about that in December, I think would be a good time.
Okay. I see our budgeting process being very different. Thank you, James. Thank you to each of our panelists who provided expert testimony today. Your contributions are appreciated and valued by this committee. And you know the old adage about planting trees under whose shade you'll never sit? I really feel like that's the work that you do every day. Generations upon generations will be in a better place in the future because of the work that you're doing right now. I have full faith and trust in that. But I also know that it's going to take a lot of work to get there. So we'll get to that. Colin, are there any members of the public who wish to speak on item 6?
There are no requests to speak.
Thank you. And with that, I solemnly adjourn this meeting today. We will now adjourn. The next meeting of FGOC will be on Thursday, October 23rd at 2 p.m. in these very same chambers. I know the timeline is short, but that'll be our regular meeting in addition to our special meeting today. Thank you, everyone.